24 jam flavors, and somehow that was the problem. Starting with that little ritual you keep coming back to. You know the one. It's morning and you're already negotiating with yourself before breakfast. The shirt, the playlist, the coffee, the app you open to, quickly check one thing and somehow stay in for 12 minutes. You are not making one decision. You are making a small weather system of them. And by the time the real choice shows up, the one that matters, something in you is already gone. That's the part people miss. They think they ran out of discipline. They think they need to be tougher, more serious, more committed. But most days, the problem is not that you failed at the important moment. The problem is that the important moment arrived after you had already spent yourself on everything around it. You can feel this in the stupid little places first. The third tab you open before you've read the first one. The maybe later folder that somehow becomes a second home. The note on your phone with a title so optimistic it makes you uncomfortable. I did this last week. I spent 10 minutes deciding whether to answer a message now or after I got focused. Then I spent the next 25 minutes arranging my desk like the desk had offended me personally. No dramatic failure, just slow leakage. And that leak matters because it changes what happens next. In a Columbia University study by Iyengar and Lepper, shoppers offered 24 jam flavors were 10 times less likely to buy than shoppers offered 6. Not because they hated jam, because more choice made action harder. More options looked like freedom, but they behaved like friction. You have felt that at the grocery shelf, staring at 5 versions of the same yogurt like one of them is going to reveal your future. The cost is not just indecision. It is the quiet habit of leaving with nothing, then ordering something later because the brain got tired of being asked. That is such a strange kind of loss. Nothing dramatic, no failure speech. Just a cart that stays half full, browser tab that stays open, and a person who tells themselves they are still deciding. The mind loves to call that patience. It is usually exhaustion wearing a nicer coat. And the weird part is that the morning decisions are never the ones people count. They count the big ones. The dinner order, the workout, the late night promise to start over on Monday. But the drain starts earlier in the places that look harmless because they are small. Blue shirt or gray shirt, reply now or reply later. Podcast or silence, it feels too minor to matter, which is exactly why it does. By noon, you have already made 20 tiny commitments to something else. Your attention has been spent in dribs and drabs, like coins falling out of a pocket with a hole in it. That is why so many people fail at the thing they swore they wanted. Not because they changed their mind, because the mind had already been taxed. The failure shows up late, but the bill came early. Researchers at the University of Newcastle found in 2025 that the more decisions people make throughout the day, the more they default to whatever is easiest. Not because they stopped caring, but because they simply ran out of steam. That is not a moral flaw, it is a human one. And it explains why, after a day full of tiny choices, you suddenly pick the easiest dinner, the easiest show, the easiest excuse. You do not become lazy at 7 p.m. You become available to the path of least resistance because everything else has already asked too much of you. You know the feeling. The part where you stand in front of the fridge and somehow the easiest thing wins before the question is even finished. Or the part where you say you will cook, then order the same food you ordered last Tuesday because the app already knows your address and that apparently is enough to end the debate. It is not that you wanted the easy thing more. It is that the easy thing was still standing after your energy had gone missing. And this is where the whole day starts to look rigged. Not by fate, by accumulation. One choice does not ruin you. 40 little ones do the job quietly. By the time you reach the task that actually matters, you are not bringing a fresh mind to it. You are bringing a mind that has already been nibbled at all morning by harmless-looking decisions that asked for almost nothing and took enough anyway. I know how embarrassing that sounds because I have watched myself do it with the same dignified stupidity. 2 months ago, I spent longer choosing a notebook than I spent writing in it. A beautiful, completely irrelevant notebook. The kind that makes you believe you're about to become the sort of person who labels things in lowercase and means it. That is the trap. We keep treating choice as if it is free. It is not. Every little preference asks for a bit of your clarity. Every unnecessary "what do I feel like" makes later decisions slightly weaker. And because the cost is spread out, it hides. You do not feel yourself getting drained in one dramatic moment. You feel it as a rougher edge, a smaller patience, a softer yes to whatever is easiest. A lot of people try to fix this by becoming more disciplined at the end of the day, which is usually when discipline is least available. That is like trying to save water after the pipe already cracked. The better move is earlier and less heroic. Remove the choices that never deserved a vote. Not forever, just enough to stop spending your best focus on costume changes. Wear the same kind of shirt more often. Put the breakfast on repeat for weekdays. Decide your work start time before the day starts. Keep one default playlist for the first hour. Not because routine is glamorous, but because the first hour is too expensive to waste on trivia. If your morning begins with 5 open questions, you have already handed away energy that could have gone to the one question that matters. You are not reducing freedom, you are protecting it from paperwork. That sounds almost too simple until you notice what it does. The mind likes fewer decisions when the decisions are expensive. It relaxes around default. A default is not a prison, it is a savings account. It saves the good part of your energy for the moment, when you actually need judgment. When you need to choose what to do with your afternoon. When you need to decide whether to keep going after the first hour gets ugly. When you need enough left to do the thing you said mattered. And yes, there is a cost to this too. Some people panic when they hear default because they hear boring. But boring is not the enemy here. Scatter is. The person who spends 40 minutes picking between nearly identical options is not living richly. They are just paying more for less movement. Like trying to cross a room while carrying 6 shopping bags because each one seemed useful at the time. The bankers in the Royal Society Open Science study by Levov and Iyengar made measurably worse lending decisions as the day progressed, and the quality of those decisions could be checked years later when loans were repaid or not. That matters because it shows this is not just a feeling that people have after a tiring afternoon. The drain changes real decisions in the real world, and the consequences last. Alone approved because the mind was tired is not a mood. It is a future problem with paperwork attached. That is the uncomfortable part. We like to imagine our tired decisions are harmless because they happen in private. They are not. They follow us. They show up later as money wasted, promises broken, plans that seemed reasonable at the time and look careless in hindsight. The person who is overloaded by noon is not just more likely to pick an easy dinner, they are more likely to make the kind of blurred, automatic choice that leaves a mark days, months, and even years later. So what do you do with that? Not with some grand life overhaul. With the thing you can do today, you reduce the number of doors that demand a decision before the day has even begun. You stop treating every small preference like it needs fresh debate. You make a short list of defaults for the parts of your day that repeat anyway. Clothes, breakfast, first task, first hour. If you want, set them the night before and leave them alone. Not because you lack imagination, because imagination is a terrible way to choose a shirt when your best thinking is needed elsewhere. And when you feel the urge to just check one more option, ask what that option is costing. Not in money, in mourning, in attention, in the quiet reserve you will want later. That question changes the shape of the choice. Suddenly, you are not choosing between identical podcasts. You are deciding whether to spend part of your future dinner self on a conversation you will not remember. Most of the time, that is enough to stop the nonsense. You can hear the resistance already, but I like options. Of course you do, everybody does. Options feel like control until they begin to behave like drag. The point is not to live like a machine. It is to stop handing your sharpest energy to the least important decisions of the day. If the important thing is dinner, stop letting the shirt and the playlist and the open tabs make the decision for you by exhausting the person who is supposed to choose. That is the whole trick, really. Not more willpower, less waste. Not a stronger self, a less distracted morning. The decision was not defeated at dinner. It was worn down somewhere between the shirt and the podcast, while you were busy pretending those things were too small to matter. And that is why the answer is so ordinary it almost disappears in front of you. Decide once, then stop deciding. Put the harmless choices on rail. Keep your best attention for the thing that can actually go wrong. The day will feel less like a series of tiny negotiations and more like a path you can still walk by afternoon. 24 jam flavors. And somehow that was the problem.